I said yesterday that I would try to get 2 episodes out today to keep us on track, and that is what I'm doing. We are still in our 16th week. We are still in Montana, and today I will be spotlighting the nursing home murders of Bertha Scott and Nancy Lagerquist. Bertha and Nancy's murders have remained unsolved for over 3 decades. It would be Nancy's brutal murder that would uncover Bertha's murder. Bertha resided in the same facility and had passed away 2 months prior to Nancy's murder from what was believed and deemed natural causes. Investigators believe these 2 cases are tied together, and despite having DNA, they have not been able to solve this case. Nancy, 87, was found deceased in the Clark River on July 2, 1990, just downstream from the nursing home Riverside Health Care Center on East Broadway, where she resided. It was determined that she had been abducted from her room, sexually assaulted, and killed by a blunt object forced into a sensitive area, leading to blood loss after it punctured internally into her chest and abdominal cavities. The article above me goes into greater detail for those who would like to pause and read. I want to make sure that we say these things as delicately as possible, not only to keep this video from being taken down, but to preserve Nancy's dignity. There was no murder weapon ever found at the scene, and investigators still aren't sure exactly what was used in Nancy's murder. Upon investigation of Nancy's room, they did find that the screen in her window had been cut, and they believe that the killer not only entered through the window, but had exited through it as well. During their initial investigation, investigators ended up questioning the care center personnel about any other potential suspicious deaths at the center. And this is when a nurse would remember a resident who had died in May that had a weird bruise on her neck. This resident was 86-year-old Bertha Scott, whose death had been listed as natural. The bruise stuck out to the nurse because Bertha slept in restraints at night to keep herself from wandering around, injuring herself at night. So the bruise on her neck didn't make any sense at the time. Investigators do follow this lead, and they end up being able to exhume Bertha's remains. The state medical examiner found that Bertha had not died from natural causes. In fact, she had been strangled, sexually assaulted, and they were even able to collect evidence of the assault since the suspect left behind DNA during the act. In September of 1991, investigators were able to take blood samples from dozens of people that they had questioned in the case, and they were able to submit them to the FBI along with hair follicles from Bertha. They also were able to submit swabs of the DNA sample, but unfortunately, the test showed no matches. While investigators were hopeful that the DNA analysis sample would bring them closer to identifying the killer, Detective Reed said in September of 1991 that they had a private laboratory in North Carolina run tests on the organic material found on Bertha, and they were only able to identify her DNA pattern and not the killer's. This is a very abbreviated definition of the DNA process that they went through, but in the end, they were not able to build a DNA genetic blueprint that could lead them to their suspect. In 1992, Detective Reed announced to the press that they had eliminated an alleged Florida killer as a suspect in Nancy and Bertha's murders. Detectives were familiar with the suspect, Lloyd Wayne Allen, also known as Buddy, who went by many aliases over his lengthy career. They were able to determine that Lloyd had been in Missoula in October of 1991 and thought he could have been there in the earlier months as well. But when they ran his record check, they discovered that he was in jail during the time that both women were murdered, so they felt confident that they could go ahead and rule him out. There has been lots of other work in their case behind the scenes, and they looked at other theories such as this crime could have been committed by a drifter. They haven't released any official suspects to the public, and their case is still listed in the Missoula Cold Case Database with a very brief description. If you have any information in Bertha or Nancy's murders, you are asked to call the Missoula County Sheriff's Office at 406-258-3302. So much for taking the time to get to know Nancy and Bertha today. And don't forget, when you see those missing and murder posts online, hit share, hit like, because every time we share a face, we do get closer to solving a case. And I will see you all back here tomorrow for another day in Montana.